Hi everyone. I realize I'm probably making a tour for myself because now I'm going to have to edit and do all sorts of things to to go through this audio. But I decided that because we haven't done face reveals yet and all of that, the easiest way to respond to all of Eisley's stories was going to be through the more traditional podcast format that I'm used to. And we'll see where I end up deciding to release this. So I'm thinking through that. I'm sure I'll ask you guys. But that has already happened at the point that you're hearing this. So what I'm going to do is kind of play through the stuff that Eisley's posted and give my responses live, because I've listened to some of her first story where she actually starts breaking it down, and I was laughing and thinking of things they needed to say, and then I was like, if I listen to all of this and then try to respond through text, there's going to be too much to read. It's going to be such a problem. Nobody's going to want to read all that. It's probably gonna be really long, and I'm gonna forget everything. That was my other thing, is I have a terrible memory. So I'll get to the end of the first video and respond to one thing when in reality there was so much that I wanted to say. So here's her first one.
Stinex should be a couple. Number one, let's be honest, let's lay this out. She's only doing this to spite me.
Okay, that was true in the beginning. I had thought it before. I had been oh, that's I ship it, enemies to lovers, right? But I never thought a lot about it. And Dex and Biana are I feel they're almost like Key Foster in the sense that everyone kind of ships Dex and Biana. So I had never really been serious about it. And so at first I was just oh, okay, now I'm doubling down. But then I read the stuff on the wiki and I was like, wait, I actually kind of ship this now. And to be fair, I didn't read all the way through it. I literally just read that part in the screen video and I was like, okay, I agree with my past self. But then today I was listening to the audiobook of Legacy because I had to drive around a bit. And I was doing some tasks at work where I could just listen. And I actually took my own notes because, again, I have a terrible memory, but I remember just mildly shipping them when I read this book. So I'm going back through and finding all of those things again, taking notes, and so I will have those after I respond to Eisley. So to be clear, in the beginning, yes, it was mostly rage baiting, but it is also real, and at this point, I also would say that I actually ship it, but we'll get back to that. Let's continue.
And I'm falling for it. I'm very easily rage baited, and I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to explain exactly why this isn't happening. So the one thing that she said was, she said she actually really got it from Keeper Wiki. So anyways, there were two things. So one of them was in Never Seen, whenever Dex and Sophie, they all go to the Hex's house because Keith went into shock or something and he needed someplace to stay. Dex studies a portrait of Stina. However, what we saw on the wiki was incomplete information. If I pull up the actual page, we see Dex saying, "This place gives me the creeps," Dex said, studying a humongous portrait of Stina on the wall. "Nothing about it makes any sense." So he's not studying this with love.
Okay, to be fair, I glanced at that when I took the screen video, and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. I had zero memory of that ever happening, but I was like, that'd be kind of funny to leave in the video to react to. So that's fair. I didn't even remember that happening. But of the actual stuff that I will lay out from Legacy, this wasn't a part of it. The stuff in Legacy is actual flirting. I promise. But we'll get to that.
Dex is blatantly showing his disgust, actually, not studying it oh, that's just the most beautiful girl I've seen in the world. How can you not love her? No, he says it's creepy. So
nothing about Dex and Stina is studying in adoration. I will say that. It's all you know that, their guys are gonna hate this. You know the scene in Kenrick's readying room where they absolutely hate each other? I know you know the scene. It's famous at this point to me. It's in my fan fiction. It's my opening chapter. It's giving that. None of it is giving real admiration. So I did figure that whatever was going on with him studying the portrait or whatever was not in context. But yes, I concede that point.
Check your info. Anyways, moving on. She says in Legacy, Dex gets enhanced and his knees buckle, and Biana keyword Biana and Stina both
love triangle
reach for him. So I looked it up. Is a reflex to catch someone when they fall driven by empathy or attraction? Guess what the answer was? Empathy.
I mean, historically speaking, Stina has not been the most empathetic person to Dex, ironically, being that she is an empath. But she was better in Legacy, which is going to be part of anyways, I'll let her talk.
Right. And, funny story, guess what Stina's ability is? Did someone say empath? Because that's what I was thinking, too. So, she's an empath, and it is a reflex driven by instinct and empathy, not attraction.
Oh, so Biana wasn't attracted to Dex in that moment.
So, when someone falls, the human nervous system responds with lightning speed to prevent harm. Key factors...
Hi guys, editing. Jaycie jumping in to say I'm going to cut down a lot of Eisley's stories so that this is mostly focused on my response, so it's not an incredibly long video. But if you want to hear what she said, go watch her stories, because there's going to be some stuff missing here.
You drop. So this isn't like, oh, I got to catch Dex before he falls, which... But it's simply like it's a knee-jerk reaction.
So when I saw that, I wasn't thinking, oh, Stina's like, she loves him and doesn't want harm to come. I wasn't thinking it like that. I was just thinking, like, it's funny that both Stina and Biana, like, that Shannon specifically had those two people catch him. I don't know who else is there in the scene, like, Wiley probably, who knows. Eisley probably knows, because she actually looked up the scene. But, I just thought it was funny because it was like the love triangle, like how Keith and Fitz always catch Sophie when she's falling, like it's always the two of them. So that's kind of what I was pointing to, not that it was out of this like, oh, I can't let Dex fall, but just like, hey, Shannon's pointing to something here, like she's implying there could be a competition here.
Basically, elves would be even more inclined than humans, which is what this study is on because it's Google, and Google doesn't apply to elves because elves are not real. But they would be more inclined to want to keep harm away from people because they're elves and they have the guilt thing and they don't want bad things to happen to others. So there's that. Plus, Stina's an empath. So this is all heightened. So obviously, Stina's going to reach for Dex when he falls. Now, you might make the argument, because I'm prepared, you might make the argument that, well, Biana reached for him too. So why does Biana like him? That doesn't prove anything for Biana and Dex in their relationship. See, but the difference between the two things is these are one of two Stina and Dex moments, and I have about 30 different compiled things of Dex and Biana moments. All right, this note is titled "Reason Why Dexiana is the Superior Couple," in parentheses, suck it, Jaycie. The potential they have as a couple. Considering that the Disney name holds less status, it would be pretty monumental for Biana to court and show interest in someone from such a non-noble family. This would show growth in her character and in the fact that she learned to care less about what people thought of her and to follow what her heart desires.
I feel like this could apply to Stina too, because she also, I hope I'm remembering this right, but her dad's also talentless. So they do have a similar understanding of her dad's also on the Black Swan, his mom's on the Black Swan, so they have these similar backgrounds, but I feel like the Hex family, just due to the unicorn stuff and due to her mom being a nobility and her parents are not a bad match, I feel like she has this odd mix of I don't know, Dex has this very specific reason to hate her, and it's, well, your family got all these things my family didn't, regardless of your family literally being doing the same things my family did. But yours just got this position in the nobility. It's that's not fair. So I think that there is some class difference there, but more in the the council's done this kind of injustice, which is also true in the case of the backers, because any discrimination is injustice. But I feel specifically for Stina, and probably part of the reason that they originally hated each other, it kind of comes from that. But this point about I'm making a statement for Biana, who's nobility from a noble family, to be with Dex, I feel that partially applies to Stina too, because she still does come from this noble family, and she clearly really, her and Dex specifically are mentioned first as really wanting the title of regent whenever it comes up, because for Stina, this nobility has been really emphasized in her family because they're not supposed to have it, and for Dex, the nobility has never been something that was attainable to him. so he really wants to have it. So I think that there are some similarities there, actually.
Dex has always hated the Vackers because of their status and assumed snottiness, so it would show extreme emotional growth in his character if he were to fall in love with Biana and put his prejudices and stereotypes aside.
Also true for him no longer hating Stina, seeing, like, the reasons that they hate each other in the first place. Like, that would also take emotional growth.
So, point number 2. Biana and Dex would be such a power couple, especially considering the impact they would have on elven society. First off, if Biana took the Disney name, it would demonstrate her true care and love for Dex despite scorn against the Disneys. I also think that Biana would refuse to register for the match, partly because she knows Dex is against it and wouldn't want to put him in a situation he's uncomfortable with, and also partly because we've seen her realize that the ways of the elven world isn't perfect. In Nightfall, whenever they go to Coralmere, she thinks about how most of the problems with the world seem to have come from her family, and she ponders if that is what the Vacker legacy is. So maybe what Alvar meant by her restoring the Vacker legacy is that she could help reform the world to be kinder and more inclusive to talentless and multiple birth children, something she would be especially inclined to do if she was a Dex, considering his father and his brother are most likely talentless, and that his siblings are triplets, and that he's just grown up hated by the world. And so I think that they would, like, them being together would totally show the elven world, which I think we can all agree that the elven world has some problems, and they would be able to show that.
I agree, totally. And this, I think, is why the Dex and Biana ship is so popular. And, like, while I think Dex and Stina would be great, and I personally do ship it, I do think that right now I do think it's more likely for Dex and Biana to be, like, the end game ship, even if, like, something happened with Stina first, because of this, and because it's one of the themes of the series of, like, opposite ends of the elven world being brought together, like the human and elven world being brought together with Sophie. So because thematically it does make a lot of sense, I do agree. I do also think that to not the same degree at all, but with Stina also, like I said, having, like, being almost as can't think of the word, but, like, stuck up as Biana in the first book. Like, Stina and Biana we see back to back. That was what brought this up, the graphic novel, back to back, like, snubbing Dex. Anyways, I just think there is some similarity there. But thematically, I think Biana's, like, leaving the nobility, if that's still a thing at the end of the series, and, you know, being a bad match, if that's still a thing at the end of the series, like, I think that would be more thematically, like, it would make sense with the series.
I think we can all agree that the Vacker household is probably not the healthiest household, and compared to the Disneys, I would say that, not regarding nobility in elven society, their family is much more healthy than the Vackers, because the Vackers we've seen, and personally I believe the Fitz-Alina Alden theory, and so...
Girl, me too. I would, like, in the rating of theories, I wouldn't put it super high up. Like, for example, I'm more sure that Tarek is evil than I am that Fitz is Alina and Alden's child, you know? But I also would say that, like, I think it's a credible theory. Now, do I think that Shannon would ever bring that into the series? Not really. But anyways,
that's Fitz-Alina Alden theory. And so we would see how that would mess up their family, which, I mean, of course, it wouldn't be Alden's fault if it were to be true.
Can you imagine? Oh, man. See, my favorite thing about that theory is that Alina would get kicked off the council so fast. She would be in exile. Oh, it would be so good. Anyway, like, it would be terrible for the Vacker family. Don't get me wrong. That would be so bad. That is so bad. But Alina would be off the council, okay?
Now I have compiled in my notes app an entire recount of every interaction that Biana and Dex have had together.
I'm actually very interested in this because, like, I feel like I've paid only attention when I read books, and this is, like, a bad habit that I have, especially with, like, books that I've waited a long time for and I'm super excited to just, like, speed read through. I feel like I really pay mostly attention to the characters that I care about. So other plot threads, other characters, and I'm not saying that I, like, don't care about Biana or Dex, but you guys, if you listen to the podcast, like, if you've seen a lot of my memes, you know that, like, my favorite characters are, like, Kenrick, Orly, and Keith. And so I know mostly everything that happens to those three people. But the other ones are a little fuzzy, unless they have a really close, like, Prentice I'm pretty familiar with, because that's a close connection to Kenrick and Stellarloon. But I'm very interested to hear this, because in my head it's like, and I'm going to say this now before I hear all of this. But in my head, it's like conceptually and thematically, I think that it would make sense. And even like as the in-game ship, even if it's not my personal favorite. But I don't actually know of any instance, like tangible instance of them actually flirting versus just like being friendly. And like even when I was listening to Legacy, the vibes that I was getting from their interactions were platonic versus with Stina, it's like a little bit more chemistry. But I mean, I was looking at it with a bias, but I'm interested to see what the actual like Dexiana moments are meant to be because I haven't seen any. But it's because I wasn't paying attention. I have a bad memory, okay?
And I gathered all of this information on my own as I read through the series. Not Keeper Wiki, I'm afraid. So let's start off with...
To be fair, I won't be using the wiki going forward. It was just that one time because I was in a rush.
Like, if Sophie's talking about them as a group, Dex and Biana are always next to each other. I don't find that as a coincidence. Like, if Dex and Biana are always working on a project together.
I see what she's saying. I think that's definitely possible because I always viewed it as like, you know, they're not a telepath, they're not an empath, they're not these abilities that are like kind of overemphasized, to be honest. Because like, I feel like we're missing a lot of opportunities for like being a vanisher. Like, I think about this sometimes with the fan fiction because like Ramira is a vanisher. She can sneak into, like, she can spy on people. Like, it would be really easy. Or like Phaser, like Derek's Phaser, like. Anyways, I feel like we really overemphasize telepathy and empathy because it's the main characters, like all the main characters and like all my favorite characters have those abilities. So it's just primary in your mind. But I viewed it as they're the characters who get left behind because they don't have those special abilities. Which I think is also kind of a theme in the series with Alvar, you know, saying that's to Biana about because she might understand, probably because she's not a telepath. That's beside the point. Anyways, that is an interesting point, and that could be true.
Oh, this is what happened. Biana was like, hey, you better hurry up before Dex's head explodes, because he looks so worried right now. And Dex is like, well, Biana looks like she's about to twist her fingers off from how much she's, like, wringing her hands. And it's just like, they just jab at each other, you know? They just tease, you know?
This is my point about Dex and Stina. Listen. Okay, continue, because I got another thought for me.
So whenever he finds out the thing with the Twiggler, Biana just goes... Dex is a genius. And Sophie also has something to say. She says something that makes Dex grin. But at both of the comments, Dex flushes and grins, and he just looks happy. So there's that.
I got it. This is my test. Is it something that Ro would say to Sophie? Maybe Ro isn't the right one, but we'll workshop this. But I'm gonna put all these moments through, like, is it something that Ro could say to Sophie and I wouldn't raise my eyebrows? You know, would Ro be like, yeah, looks like you're about to twist your fingers off? Would I be like, what is happening? No. So there we go. If Ro was like, yeah, Sophie's a genius, would I be like, what? I guess that one is a little bit more like if Sophie blushed about it. Yeah, okay. But I feel like the council has said stuff like that about her, and it made her blush. So, Emery and Sophie, anyone?
Number 2. Dex and Biana die Iggy in Never Seen.
If Ro and Sophie died Iggy, and Ro was like, wow, I'm impressed with an elf for not being, like, all stuck up and, like, they won't deal with a dirty creature, I wouldn't be raising my eyebrow. That would still be normal. So, passes the Ro and Sophie test. I don't think it's romantic.
3. Biana joins Dex looking for rocks in Never Seen. So Dex says that he's still
looking for rocks. Sometimes I wonder if I read Never Seen. I'm sorry, that's off topic.
Needs a piece of, like, technology from the humans. And then Biana asks if she can tag along.
Okay, so this is like baby, like them becoming friends. Baby Dexiana. Okay, I'm following. If Sophie was gonna go look for rocks and Ro was like, I'll come with you. That one gets a question mark. I don't think it passes the Ro and Sophie test, but in a, like, specific instance, it could. So we're going to put a question mark.
Number 4. Dex gives Biana the panic switch, and she's, like, showing it off. She's like, yeah, Dex made me this, you know, I'm never going to take it off, and he's, like, bright red. So what if we think about...
That does not pass the Ro and Sophie test.
So, 1, guys, it's a ring.
Didn't he give it to everyone in their friend group?
Because she says that they remind her of Anne and Gilbert from Anne of Green Gables.
Yes,
and I mean, I just have to say, I guess I get where you're coming from with that, because I personally, I mean, the only thing I've ever seen with Anne of Green Gables is Anne with an E, which I think that could probably apply to most people.
That's like watching the Percy Jackson movies and then being like, yeah, Annabeth is like this. Like, no. You don't know who you're talking about.
But the thing is, they were never, like, really truly enemies. And I'm not saying Dex and Stina were either.
Okay, I'm not claiming that this is enemies. I know enemies to lovers is a different thing. That's more like Cool Prince kind of thing, right? I'm saying this is haters to lovers, like rivals to lovers. More like Coralie, more like Gilbert and Anne, that sort of thing. They're not like on opposing. She's not never seen. But it is haters to lovers. Anyways, I just thought of that. Like, I realized that's what you were saying. And I'm recording this without the fancy microphone as I'm editing.
Each other. You know what I mean? And I personally, hot take guys, but I'm not the biggest fan of enemies to lovers because I just don't think it's very realistic.
That is a hot take.
And in some cases it's good, like in Powerless and like The Cruel Prince, it's like fitting for the story. But in this children's book, first of all,
Kenrick and Orly,
they went to go to the place where Sophie and Dex were held when they were kidnapped. Right. And so Beyonce's like, if it helps, they didn't bring me either. We should like form our own team and we can call it Beyoncex or Diznacker or Vikisny. Dex and Beyonce, they're always trying to build each other up. Dex, Bex, Lex, and Rex, rhyming in Lodestar. And Beyonce's like, oh, I think that's cute. That's cute that your guys' names rhyme. And he's like, yeah, that's because you're not named Bits. First, this is just the playful banter and arguing that I love to see, and I'm sure we all love to see, because who does that remind us of? Maybe our favorites, Sophie and Keith. So, like, it's just, I feel like a relationship has to be built on, like, playfulness a little bit. A little bit, at least.
That's true, yeah.
And honestly, I'm so glad she said something about this because it's actually going to give me more weight and more credibility later whenever I say that Dex and Stina fighting in the mud, like they were like, oh, this playfulness. You know, that actually lends me some credit. So thank you. Yes, I agree.
Like, I feel like at this point, Beyonce's already gotten over Keith. Vackers and Disneys don't really usually run in the same circles. And Beyonce just looks at him and she's like, well, you know, they should. And she points to her panic switch. So it's just like, you can really see her trying to get closer to Dex. And I think that's very important because at this point, I think that Beyonce is already starting to develop a crush on Dex, at least a little bit. And
I would agree.
So
I don't know when she kind of starts backing off Keith. I want to say it is around like the Never Seen Lodestar marks right on here, but we do know that Dex likes Sophie and he's very focused on Sophie until after Nightfall. So I'm agreeing, I'm seeing hints of Beyonce flirting, but I don't think that Dex has necessarily flirted, like if you think of how he acts around Sophie. So that's something to think about. I think that they're like friendly at this point. This is okay. You know, if we're talking about the Rose Sophie test, I think the stuff that Dex has done would mostly pass, but the stuff that Beyonce, like showing off the ring or being like, oh yeah, we should hang out and point to the ring, like that's the stuff where I'm like, okay, yeah, like I agree, I think that she's crushing. Now, we want to revisit the love triangle thing. I think that could be an interesting, like, plot. Like, we could have a Dex starts, you know, the chemistry with Stina, and so he starts liking her, and they end up having a thing, and Beyonce is jealous. Like, that could be a thing.
As Lex is, like, leaving, Dex is like, besides, she's way too good for you.
He still likes Sophie, though.
Like, I feel like Dex is the oblivious one here in this relationship.
Yeah.
He knows in his heart that, wait, maybe the feelings are more.
I feel like he's not, like, even if that's true, like, it's completely unconscious at this point. Like, I don't think he is flirting on his side yet. I'll give her.
Ate alone in your alchemy session, because now that they're friends, they don't realize how bad Dex's life really was. And Beyonce says, I'm sorry, I was really stupid back then. And Fitz agrees. But the thing is, I think Beyonce starts to realize how unfair the world has been, and I feel like she really starts to, you know, like, want to change that, you know?
She's a lot more, like, open-minded than Fitz. Fitz has some issues because he's always been, like, I think that he can see, like, in terms of, like, logic, he can look and say, logically, yes, I think there are problems, but he can also say emotionally, I have been seen as good by the system, so it's hard to say let's throw out the system because it seems like it would impact his worth. With Beyonce, she hasn't had that to the same degree. Like, to some degree she has, but not like him. So it's a little easier for her to question it.
Dexiana starts laughing so hard that she almost falls, and Dex catches her. Now I know that I just completely went on a rampage about how catching someone doesn't mean they're in love.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't mean they're not in love. Now don't quote me on that for Stinex, because
I will be quoting you.
I have 30, so...
I have more than one.
And then Dex invented this. And be honest, like, you invented that? That's awesome. And he's like, oh, it's no big deal. She's like, what do you mean it's no big deal? That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so, again, building each other up. And then she's like, well, you don't give yourself...
So far, it's all been Bianna building Dex up, which I think she is just like that, like, as a person. Like, I feel like that's her personality, as very, like, words of affirmation-y. You know, that's something that's pretty natural. For those of you who are Myers-Briggs, she's probably ENFJ. So Effie Dome, like, that's very natural for, like, the way they communicate. But I haven't seen him flirting back, like, flirting, you know what I mean?
Dex is sitting on the floor. Bianna comes up behind him with her hair gel and just starts running her hands through his hair.
Whoa. I could believe that she's crushing on him at this point. I could believe it. I don't know if I saw it in Legacy, but I'm going to wait and see if she saw anything. But in the portions I was listening to, like, with the council there and everything, I don't know if I necessarily saw it there. But that...
So Bianna's like, hey, don't underestimate yourself like that. Honestly, I think I'm quoting this word for word, to be honest. Don't underestimate yourself like that. You're Dex Disney. You built the Twiggler. You built these. And everybody, like, shows up their panic switches. You can do this, okay? You got this, okay? You're Dex freaking Disney, you know? Like, you're, like, one of the best. She basically just sits there, builds him up. This is what I'm talking about. Their entire relationship is built on a good friendship and building each other up.
This is low-key another example of what I was just saying. It's like, yeah, this is Bianna flirting. It's just Bianna.
Workmen, there's two of them, yes indeed, twins. And Bianna, she's sobbing. She's sobbing. The overwhelming combination would have made Bianna collapse if Dex had not offered her his shoulder. Guys, yeah, I don't know what kind of denial y'all are in saying Stina and Dex. I say y'all. It's like Jaycie and 4 other people. But
I know she has like 100 likes on this story. Like, every Bianna Dex fan is just like, agree.
If Stina was crying, he'd be like, girl, sob on the ground for all I care. All right.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
Because he was like, you know, devastated from the kiss, you know, he's like, he just got rejected.
Okay.
And so
So now we're at the point where we can start seeing Dex's signals as flirting, because he's been rejected.
She wants to make sure he's okay. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to go out of her way.
She likes it. Like, I agree that Bianna
She didn't have
does.
to know.
Sophie liked Fitz. I agree. She liked Fitz for like 8 books. I never said she didn't. I just said I didn't ship it.
Who offers to take her to safety? Who offers to get her help? Dexter Alvin Disney, guys. He's like, well, I could carry her. I doubt you guys would need a technopath. You know, I can get her to Livy.
I feel like that last one would pass the Ro and Sophie test, actually. Just saying. Ro would carry Sophie to the doctor.
So we have confirmed Bianna has a crush in the Fitz chandelier scene. Does not say who it is, but guys,
yeah,
I think we can guess. The Foss Boss, Legacy, page 159.
Oh, this wasn't
So,
flirting. Come on.
This is whenever they're joining Team Valiant, obviously.
I listened to this
Dex
today.
Keeps making jokes, you know. He keeps like teasing Sophie.
And Stina.
The thing is, why would he keep doing that? You know, my personal thing is
Because he's a rage baiter.
What if he's trying to do it to get Bianna to laugh? Because Bianna, every time he says something, we see her giggle.
I wish that I had a camera for the really look that I just gave the microphone.
He wants to see her laugh, guys. He's just making jokes.
That's a headcanon. You don't know that.
So we have Bianna and Dex holding hands. Like
That passes the Ro and Sophie test, because if Ro ever had to light leap, they would have to hold hands.
it's whenever they go back to the cave.
But like, my thoughts on that are like, that's not necessarily romantic, you know? It's friendly. It is supportive, but I feel like the interactions with Stina are more flirty, and we're getting close to me actually getting to show my side too.
So Dex stays behind, and we see Bianna like linger. Tell me that's not jealousy. Tell me that's not jealousy.
Oh, I think it is. I also think the potential for her being jealous of Stina would be very high. Come on, that'd be kind of fun, right? To watch jealous Bianna.
He doesn't still like her, right? He doesn't still like her.
Right, and that's only possible if her and Dex actually haven't established a relationship at this point, right? So, you know, I still think that Dex isn't necessarily reciprocating. I think that most of this is just Bianna. which is fine. Like, I'm not saying that they would never get together. I'm just saying at this point, I'm not reading him flirting back.
And it's so, like, she's getting jealous. We know Bianna's jealous, okay? We know Bianna gets jealous. We see that's the entirety of book 1 with her and Sophie. Yeah. Bianna is jealous of Sophie because... All right, then, this one is also included in the Stina Dex thing, but I think it's mainly Dexiana because, again, this was left out. So, in Legacy, whenever they're going to Loamnor, I believe, they have to go through the mud pit thing. And so they're all in there, and they're, like, wrestling,
this is so funny.
And so...
I knew exactly what this is, and I'm going to talk about it in the Stina thing, so I'm going to talk about it now, because I know what she's about to say, because I listened to it today. Stina, like, gets, like, thrown into, or someone knocks her in. I don't remember. She's being like, I don't want to get in the mud. And Dex is like, you know, Sophie's like, you have 3 seconds. And she ends up having to get in, of course. And Dex is, like, dying laughing. He's like, this is the best moment of my life. Because she's, like, covered in mud and screaming. And so she attacks Dex. Listen. Anyways, if I was watching, I would be giggling. Like, if I was watching that as a movie... I'd be like, oh, I ship it. Like, I see it. So then Bianna attacks Stina. I don't think this is a Dex and Bianna being together moment. I think this is a love triangle moment. I think Bianna is jealous of that, what she just saw. You know what I mean? Dex being like, haha, Stina, you fell in the mud. And Stina being like, Dex, you... That's Dex and Stina interacting, and Bianna being the third person who's like, wait a second, no. So I'm not denying, I can read that Bianna has a crush on him. I'm just not reading him flirting back. I'm reading him flirting with Stina.
Is that Bianna and Dex and Stina are the ones who are wrestling?
No. And Dex
tackle are Stina. The ones, so they're just teamed up against Stina. So, one, Wiki likes to believe what it wants to...
This isn't... I can agree with what she just said, though. The Wiki does... Whew, the things that I used to say back in the flashback days are crazy. You're like, Fitz smiled, and Sophie was in the group. That's a Fitz female. It was crazy. Anyway, they cleaned it up since then, but there would be like 200 like occurrences a book of like shipping things. It was the wildest thing. Anyway, I still think that this was a Stina and Dex interaction, and Bianna was the jealous party here. Like, and I will read it whenever we get to my arguments so that I can show that better.
Stina and Dex never stood a chance, okay? You're just saying things just so that you...
I'm not saying
right.
the endgame.
Guess what? You're wrong, because here's the official information.
That was everything on hers. Now I have stuff being announced about Summer I Turned Pretty. That was all of her stuff, so get ready for my response. Okay, I didn't write down my page numbers, but I can tell you that these are all from Legacy. So I started listening to Legacy like right at the point where they all get called to the the building, and the council's like, hey, guess what, besties? Y'all are gonna be regents. We just decided that like the solution to all of our government problems is making lots of children part of the government, and you guys are gonna be a team, but so you're gonna be like junior regents, but also you're gonna be the first to go to the point of purity. So it's just like the council making decisions that make lots of sense. Anyway, so as we all know, Stina and Dex are there, and I think that this was the first time, like in reading the series, that I really did start to ship them. So while there's like the hints, like, you know, in book 1 he gives her the balding serum and she's like so mad, then he's like, hey, now I'm gonna troll her and make her grow a beard. Like, I think we have that, like, just the hints of their back and forth and all of that. I wouldn't say that it's like personal. It's more like, oh, your family is the same as mine in terms of your dad being talentless, and he doesn't know this at the time, but like they both have a parent in the Black Swan, but her family gets to be in the nobility, probably because of them breaking the law a little bit with the matchmakers, and his doesn't. And so, you know, I think that this is where it actually gets more personal versus just like, oh, you're this person who gets this thing that I don't, and I'm mad at you for this societal thing. Okay, so he specifically is asking Stina, so Stina's critiquing Sophie. She's kind of being a hater in this first scene. Like, there's a lot of character growth in Legacy for Stina, but this is before that character growth happens. And it's pretty rapid, too, her character growth is, but we'll talk about that as we see it. So she's like, oh, Sophie doesn't do anything. Y'all just sit around and y'all always lose. And Dex says, well, yeah, what have you done? Dex asked, stepping into Stina's personal space. He was still shorter than her, but almost everyone was, so he's still a little shorter. But he's tall, so
potential, right? It isn't. You know, Zendaya and Tom Holland, right? So anyways, Stina got even taller when she straightened to her full height and said, how about how I saved the Alucard babies and reset the timeline to extinction? Anyways, the main reason I screenshotted this, and those of you very familiar with me might know, Dex, we have specifically stepping into her personal space. Well, what do we know? I'm gonna get hate for this, I fear. What do we know about when one character steps into another character's personal space in a heated argument, being like, you rush through the work you're supposed to do, you don't even do anything important, you're not even qualified for this position. Where does that sound familiar from? In the memory, her projection stepped into Kenrick's personal space. Well, I guess I should thank you for dropping the polite act. I've always preferred to deal with my enemies honestly. Come on, guys. Come on. The same phrase, and it's meant to, like, build this chemistry. It's meant to build this tension. This is Shannon's device, right? It's her device to show that. So that's the first one that I screenshotted. And then Dex and Stina are still arguing about the important stuff that Stina did. Maybe you did important stuff, Dex told her, but I heard Stina put out some blankets or something. Good job. No one else could have done that. And Stina's arguing back and defending the stuff she did. Like, again, it is really giving that one scene we got of Corley. It's really giving that, like, tension of, like, the kind of chemistry, like hate with chemistry. You know what I mean? It's the same energy. It really is. And I think, anyways, I just feel like there's a lot of focus on, like, him and her, like, their back and forth, versus with Biana and Dex, like, there is a lot of, like, Biana seeming to have a crush on Dex, but I'm not seeing him, like, interacting with her. With Stina, it is more of a mutual thing. Chemistry, in my opinion. Right, and you guys weren't already looking at me like you'd rather work with a muskog, Stina countered. Dex flashed his most wicked grin. A muskog would smell better. Guys, like, the smile before he says it, this is, like, epitome haters to lovers score. And back to the Anne and Gilbert thing, this is really giving that energy. And I did think it was also really funny whenever Dex is like, muskog would smell better. And Grady's trying not to laugh. He's like, Grady coughed through another laugh, and Sandor's shoulders looked like he was holding in a fit of goblin giggles. So everyone else is seeing this and thinking it's hilarious. It's not just them hating and everyone else being uncomfortable. Everyone else is like, this is funny. And Emery is the one who's unamused. He's like, enough. And this is just me. This is not actually anyone in the story doing this. But I was like, poor Emery is probably having flashbacks to, like, the early days of Orly being elected. Like, why are we putting more people in that are going to do this when they're working together? Oh my goodness. Anyway. Someone says, a change in strategy is essential for you to become truly successful. Someone on the council. And Stina Hex is your big solution? Dex asked. Like, for real? Again, he's very focused on hating Stina. Like, all his energy here is directed towards her. Biana's there. And they do talk a little bit, like they have the Lady Fosbos thing. But it's more like, he's like, yeah, Wiley has the same energy interacting in that Lady Fosbos thing as Biana does. I'm not saying Biana doesn't have a crush on Dex. I'm just saying the, like, energy between them is giving the same thing. Versus the energy between Dex and Stina in this particular scene. This is my initial thoughts, and I will be adding more on this in the coming days as I continue my read of the series. But my mental capacity at the moment of so many jobs, it's not there. So, then, yeah, the only disaster I see here is you, Dex told Stina. And let me guess, you think you'd be a better leader? Stina laughed. You think I want that kind of responsibility? Hard pass. Wiley's the obvious choice. Again, whenever Stina's doing this stuff, who's the one being like, yes, like, giving it back to her? It's all Dex. And so, again, it's just like all these interactions are between them. It's showing, like, this chemistry is like, the only disaster I see here is you. Like, he's very focused on insulting her. Like, he's not even just arguing. It's all insults, and it's amusing. I can't believe I'm going to officially be linked to you weirdos, Stina growled under her breath. You can still back out, Dex reminded her. Or you can try acting like you appreciate what the council's doing for us today, Stina whisper hissed. We're inside the seat of eminence, that's what it's called. About to be sworn in as the youngest regents ever. Could you maybe try behaving with a little dignity? Dex scratched his chin. Nah, annoying you is way more fun. What were you saying about giving Q Foster, Eisley? What were you saying about that? What were you saying about the dynamic, the teasing? Annoying you is way more fun. Girl. That, you can't look at the way he's interacting with her and not see it. You can't. Like, listen. Bianca can have a crush on Dex. I agree. Dexiana might even make more sense as in-game with the theme. Sure. I'm not disagreeing with that. But you can't read this scene. Annoying you is way more fun. And, like, the way that she is also being like, we both know that each other's parents are in the Black Swan. I don't know if she necessarily, she might. I don't remember. But he knows that hers are, and she knows that he knows that Timken is, right? And they both know that they have the talentless dad, and that they have no chance. And I think, like, the next screenshot, I'm pretty sure I screenshotted it, is where Sophie's like, oh, like, you really want me to say yes to the title, Stina? Of course you do. You want this position. And Stina's like, yeah, and, like, so does Dex. But, like, they have this shared understanding here of, like, this is serious, but, like, Dex is also a little bit, like, unserious. He's just like, no, I'm just rage baiting you. It's really fun. And I think that that's funny. Like, he's devoting all of this energy towards her. I think that that's the chemistry there, you know, is he acknowledges here that he's having fun annoying her. He's not just hating. He's doing it because it's fun. There's some feelings involved, you know? Okay. Stina says something. I think this is a little bit, like, after the team has been established. As I said, I was listening, so I was just screenshotting as these things happen. But Bianca says, Stina's right, and it's just about something random, like, that they're working on. But it says, Bianca agreed, crinkling her nose like those words pained her a little. Again, with the, like, subtle little indications, because Sophie's not all up in everyone's business. I feel like she really doesn't know, like, when her friends are sort of in, like, relationships or almost relationships or all of that. Like, we're very kept out of what's going on with everybody else, you know? Like, I feel like there was, and there's, like, official art that almost confirmed it, but, like, of something happening with Lynn and Wiley at one point. We didn't, like, it was only an implication, and we didn't really see them actually being together, hanging out, or talking. We have no idea, because it's all Sophie perspective, and she is staying out of it. And I think that's a similar thing with, like, if there is a Bianca, Stina, Dex, like, undertone, it's gonna be really slight. It's gonna be stuff like this, because Sophie's staying out of other people's business. Same thing with, like, I think Bianca, and this ties into it, I think Bianca could have a crush on Dex. But I also think that there's not a full reciprocation of Dex to Bianca right now. I think his energy, and we're seeing it in these scenes where the three of them are together, it's mostly devoted to Stina. But Bianca is clearly a little bit, she does not like Stina, right? Okay, and I feel like there's more to that. Like, I feel like it could be indicative of, like, this love triangle happening that Sophie's just kind of oblivious to. Then we get to the mud incident. You have two choices, Sophie decided, placing her hands on her hips. You can wade in now on your own, or I can have Sandor pick you up and toss you in. Everyone votes for option B, right? Dex asked. The chorus of yes was definitely unanimous. Again, with not Bianca, not Sophie. Like, Dex is the one being like, let's rage bait Stina, let's do it. That, come on, that's totally, it's his attention, and, like, out of any of the characters, you could say, it's always Dex who's first attacking Stina or trying to, like, annoy her and saying that he's having fun. I hate all of you, Stina informed them as Sandor stalked toward her with a smile that looked downright gleeful. Fine, I'll do it on my own. Back off. She moved to the edge of the mud again, and then she just stood there. 10 seconds, Sophie warned. Then it's Sandor dunk time. 10, 9, 8. Bianca, Dex, and Wiley joined in the countdown as Stina made a noise that was part growl, part moaning wail. 4, 3. Stina muttered a string of words that would have made Ro proud. Then she shuffled into the mud, trying to move slowly and carefully. But 2 steps in, she lost her footing and splash. For the record, Dex said as Stina burst back to the surface looking like a sludge beast and screaming like a banshee. This might be the greatest moment of my life. Oh yeah? Stina asked, scraping her muddy curls off her face and running towards Dex with pretty impressive speed despite the resistance caused by the muck. better. Sophie asked Bronte as Dex received a thorough Stina dunking. So Stina dunks Dex, and Biana scrambled over and tackled her. So what is happening here? Stina's mad. Dex is saying, oh, this is the greatest. Like, I'm enjoying this so much right now. Again, specifically because he, like, annoying her is just fun for him. It's that mutual, like, teasing energy. So she throws him in the mud, right? Again, it's like this, like, it's playful teasing. Like, they're not like, oh, I hate you and your family anymore. It's just like, annoying you is fun now. But then Biana, she's the way that Stina's co-teasing Dex. And again, with this subtle Biana jealousy, she's like, excuse me, ma'am. Like, because she has a crush on Dex. She's jealous. I wanted to add, Stina's character development just from the point where they're, like, creating Team Valiant to after, like, she starts helping Sophie with her biological parent theories and she's really supportive. I need to actually go back and grab those, like, references really quick because I feel like that this is kind of insightful to my position on her. So if you hear screaming in the background, that'd be my husband playing his football video game, his college football video game. He's very into it. So, you know, I'm doing my what would you call it, nerd stuff over here, and he's doing his version of it. We're both enjoying our things. But anyways, the first little hint we get of it is actually when they're on the King's Path in Lomnor, and Stina's, like, pulling Sophie out of her head, and Sophie was about to inflict on them, and she felt it with her empathy, and she's like, yo, like, you gotta chill out. And it's a very tough love. It's kind of giving Mira for those who watch K-pop Demon Hunters. But anyways, it's giving Mira a little bit. Like, around this time, I was starting to be like, wait, why do I kind of like her? Like, at least in this reread, I don't remember what I was thinking back in, like, 2019 or whatever when this came out, because I was like 15. Okay, but anyway, when I was rereading this, I was like, oh, like, I'm starting to actually really like her. Like, she's kind of cool. She's funny, like, all of these, like, asides. Like, she's kind of, like, not quite, like, to the degree of Keith, but, like, she's this, like, she's saying what she thinks. Like, she's like, why is this dwarf bald? That's weird as heck. Like, I love her. Okay, so then she starts to get pretty iconic. And she's kind of sympathizing with Sophie. Stina's like, it does not seem like it's feeling very awesome to be the Moonlark right now. And Sophie's like, it is not. So there's, like, kind of almost a sympathy there. So again, she's getting better, and it's somewhat due to her empathy. It gives her this ability to understand people. Gives her this ability to grow as a person pretty rapidly. So then we have this. What about you, Livy asked Stina? You're new and you're staying. Stina agreed. And there wasn't a drop of snottiness in her voice when she said, and I'm staying right here. So that's right before the ability reset. So she's staying by Sophie's side. It's like this, she's being supportive. But she's not being, like, overly emotional about it, right? She's just like, so this is kind of confirming, like, she doesn't show care the way Biana does, right? In an overly, like, verbal, like, through words. It's sort of more through presence, right? Through her attention and where she's directing it. So that's where, like, we're not going to get the same, you know, if Stina likes Dex or if she starts to realize those feelings and acknowledge them, it's not going to be the way that Biana does. It's going to be in her own way. She's a very different person, but I think it's possible, like, we wouldn't necessarily tell unless she, like, wanted to tell someone. I don't think she's the type of person that would want to tell someone. So Stina and Wiley are working on stuff. All right. And the next morning, Biana, you look better. This is a great example of the difference between Biana and Stina and how it doesn't necessarily mean that Stina's less, like, caring or genuine. She's just a little more deadpan, right? It's, we're gonna go back to it's giving Zoe and Mira, you know? Okay. You know, listen. K-pop Demon Hunters is fully responsible for the month that I didn't post anything. Fully. Like, listen, we're not going to talk about that. You look better, Biana told Sophie the next morning after the ability reset. And then she glanced at Stina. Doesn't she look better? Does she? Stina asked with her trademark brutal honesty. I mean, she's not so greasy anymore, but she's still awfully pale. So she's not trying to insult Sophie. She's just like, she looks better? Like, I feel like she's not recovered. Are you for real? You think she looks better? This is not what people are supposed to look like, Biana. So it's not, she's not being mean anymore, but she's just being honest. And this is also the point where, like, she is starting to be a little less like mean to Sophie. Like whenever Stina's saying stuff at this point, Sophie's like, I hate to say it, but she's got a point. And there's some point around this as well where Bianna's like, Stina's right, and it's like she wasn't as mad about it this time. Like that the one time I read that she had to say Stina was right and she like crinkled her nose. This time when she's saying it, she's like, yeah, okay, she's actually right. Like she hates her a little less, you know. All right, and more with Stina being a little bit more friendly. They say that Lady Cadence is her mom, and Sophie's like, okay. And Stina's like, that's good news, right? Like, you don't want her to be your biological mom. And again, it's this attention towards Sophie, and like, I'm going to kind of read this scene a little bit, because I think it shows a good example of what it's like whenever, again, Stina starts to care. She's not overly warm or overly like, oh, it's gonna be okay, Sophie. Like, I'm sure the people that are your parents are super proud. Like, that's not how she communicates care. She's more of, like, she's showing this intention. Like, almost, I'm forgetting the name for it, but, like, the doing things for people as, like, the more of the display of care. I don't remember. It'll come to me. That's good news, right? You didn't want her to be your biological mom, did you? No, Sophie said, and she's thinking about it, and she starts coughing or whatever, and in pain. It wasn't that bad. Oh, Sophie said, I probably don't want to know what she said after you asked her. And Bianna says, it wasn't that bad. And Sophie's like, nope, don't want to know. And Bianna's like, it wasn't that bad, but yeah, you're probably right. And Stina's like, actually, no, you probably want to know one thing. She said the Black Swan is too smart to have your bio parents' abilities match yours. So, pause a little aside on this. I think that that's technically, I mean, obviously true, because we know Sophie's bio mom didn't have the same abilities as her, but the Black Swan didn't necessarily 100% know which ability she was going to come out with. Lady Cadence and Stina, neither of which are on the Black Swan, somewhat unreliable narrators, and her most powerful ability by far, it's really set apart, she manifested at 5, telepathy. So I think it's very, very likely that her father is a telepath. I think that's the only thing that makes sense of why that ability was so strong, and they didn't want her to manifest at 5. Like, it happened because it's too strong in her genes. That's an aside. Back to this. So Stina's showing this attention to Sophie. She's really thinking this through, and she's not dismissing it. She's not rolling her eyes. This is her showing that she's caring about Sophie, right? So Stina's showing she cares with attention and with doing things for her, right? And she helps out more. She goes and asks Bronte about if he's Sophie's father later on. So this is also it's just like she's doing a little more than she had to necessarily. She's not being like, this is not my job as part of Team Valiant. So I think that this is really insightful, and the difference in vibe here between Bianna and Stina, I think it's interesting too that they're putting this scene together, like, to be these different ways of approaching it. Here's what I was thinking of too when I was looking for this scene. So Bianna's like, do you need us to get Ellen or Livy or Adeline? And Sophie's like, no, I think I just need a rest for a bit. I think that's a good idea, Stina agreed. And here's like who are you and what did you do with Stina Hex? So Stina agreed, seriously, Sophie, there's nothing wrong with taking the time you need to get better. In the context of a mud thing where Stina shoves Dex shoves Stina, and then Bianna's like, excuse me, and shoves Stina, Stina falls in and then tackles Dex, and whenever Bianna sees that Dex has been teasing Stina, now Stina's teasing Dex, she joins in the fight. Similarly to that dynamic, we have when Dex gets all shaky from Sophie's enhancing, and they have to support him. Like, they both immediately go to support him. There are other people in the room. Keith's in the room. If we wanted Keith to support him, we could. I think it's very interesting, and again, it's one of those subtle things where Sophie's staying out of people's business, but this is one of those subtle cues that there's a love triangle happening. Okay, that's everything for Legacy, and if I don't cook dinner soon, I'm gonna end up starving. So I will go through Stellar Loon soon. I can't do that tonight. Is a more full summation. Like, I'm not saying that there's no evidence for Bianna and Dex, or that it thematically doesn't make sense. I think it does. I understand why it exists. I fully understand. And I even see the potential for it being actual in-game. Dex and Stina could be too. And there are thematic things there too. But I feel like Dex and Bianna do have the bigger thematic ties. If I'm right about the direction the story's going in. But I don't think that it's a stretch to say Dex and Stina will happen. Like, I don't think it would come out of left field just based on this stuff, because there is this mutual energy of like teasing between Dex and Stina. And while there is the friendship between Dex and Biana, and a lot of the things that she's doing towards him is really readable as flirting, I'm not seeing it being as mutual as the stuff with him and Stina. So I think it's honestly a love triangle right now, or a jealousy triangle, where Dex is giving Stina his attention, because I think that there are some buried feelings there. Stina's giving Dex her attention again, buried feelings there. But Biana's jealous. And what makes it more fun is Stina is in fact an empath. So she could get aware of this really fast. And, you know, if this dynamic continues or doesn't really get brought up again, we can assume it's continuing in the background. And I think that this is some big potential for some drama. Some Stina, like if she got aware of Biana's jealousy and of Dex's attention, and she's like, wait a minute, I like this. She's jealous because she's an empath. Like, she could very well start a relationship with Dex, realizing that there's something between them, and Biana's jealous. Now she has to like stake her claim now. So, anyways, and I'm not saying their endgame. I'm just saying this is the like. I wouldn't think it's coming out of left field, or that we need like 3 more books for it to happen. I think it's actively happening back in book 8. Who knows what's happening in book 9? I gotta reread all this, paying attention to them, because I didn't very much, because I was paying attention to Kenrick and Orly and Keith and no one else. So anyways, that's my thoughts so far. Let me know what you guys think, because I feel like I actually have more of a position on this now versus just being like, you know, they flirted once, it was cute. So yeah, thank you for following along all of these videos, and hopefully you enjoyed.